Do you expect Conor now, after all these years off and the injury after the leg and all that, to look similar to like how Nate did, or is this something are we going to see a revised Conor McGregor?
Yeah, I don't think Conor's gonna look as bad as Nate, bro. That was really bad. The thing that I think the punching power is gonna be there regardless. Conor's gonna come back from the injury and still have that natural punching power. What the question for me is the timing.
Conor McGregor is finally coming back. And out of every fighter in the entire UFC roster, Dana White handed him the one man he should have avoided, Max Holloway. The same Max Holloway who knocked Justin Gaethje unconscious with 1 second left on the clock at UFC 300. The same Max Holloway who walked into Dustin Poirier's retirement fight and ruined it. The same Max Holloway who is the only human being to ever take Conor to a decision at featherweight. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The version of Max that Conor beat in 2013 was a 21-year-old kid with 4 pro fights. The version waiting for him at UFC 329 is a finisher, a BMF champion, and one of the highest volume strikers in MMA history. So before you decide who wins this rematch, you need to see exactly why the matchup makes Conor's entire camp nervous. Because the deeper you look at this fight, the worse it gets for the Notorious.
Brimage in the white.
This is exactly what Brimage needs to do. He needs to dumb down the fight. He can't let Conor get off, get his rhythm going, and get his momentum going. Conor loves angles. He loves to mix it up. He'll step off, and Brimage just has to stay in his face.
Black trunks for Dublin, Ireland's McGregor. Very technical and precise striker. Nice shot by...
For 4 years, Conor McGregor has been a ghost in the UFC. No fights, no camps, no real competition. Just headlines, lawsuits, and that broken leg against Dustin Poirier that nobody can forget. And in those same 4 years, Max Holloway evolved into one of the most dangerous strikers the lightweight division has ever seen. That gap is the entire story. Because when Dana White announced this fight, fans didn't react like it was a fair matchup. They reacted like the UFC had thrown Conor straight into the deep end. And the first person who noticed was Max himself.
Practitioner, but started off as a karate stylist. Oh, look at that front leg hook kick. Where do you see that?
Shades of Gunnar Nelson, but just a great fluidity with Conor McGregor, and he continues to land upstairs on Max Holloway.
And that unpredictable nature of his attack makes Max hesitant. He doesn't know what's coming. Look at this wild stuff. Jumping switch kick.
It is hard to simulate this type of pressure in training too.
Yeah, that jumping switch kick is very unique.
This is the fight everyone keeps pointing to. August 17th, 2013. Conor McGregor versus a 21-year-old Max Holloway at UFC Fight Night Boston. Conor was the rising European star with hype, swagger, and a left hand that looked like a cheat code. Max was a Hawaiian kid with 4 pro wins and no real reputation yet. And on paper, Conor dominated. He outstruck Max on the feet, controlled the cage, and won a clean, unanimous decision. But there's a detail in this fight nobody talks about enough, and it completely flips the way you should look at the rematch.
Exactly what happened during the fight, McGregor's knee injury, and then talk about just why it's so wild that he not only finished the fight, but won. As always, if you enjoy learning about this unique side of sports, please consider subscribing to my channel, and let's get started. There's really 2 kind of back-to-back sequences here where I think the injury occurred, because McGregor mentioned that after he heard the pop, he switched into side control, and so we can kind of piece things together here. But into the second round, McGregor is here on top, and remember, it's the left knee that we're worried about. So what we've got to pay attention to here is as McGregor's hips start to turn right there and sort of pivot,
Conor McGregor tore his ACL inside that cage. Round 2. He shot a takedown, felt the pop, and finished the rest of the fight on essentially one leg, wrestling Max Holloway, of all people, just to survive. Read that again. Conor McGregor, the striker, the showman, the guy who built his entire brand on never going to the ground, chose to wrestle Max Holloway because his knee couldn't hold his weight anymore. That is not the story of a dominant win. That is the story of a fighter who got rocked by reality and had to improvise to escape. And here's where it gets weird. Conor is now using that injury as the explanation for why this rematch is going to be different. But Max already has an answer ready.
Many things. I'm ready.
Brother, I told your ass. I just called you out on Paramount Plus, dog.
Why?
Because I want a payday. What the fuck? Are you crazy,
trying to get
bro?
the easiest
I
fight.
Rich?
Now you would get the easiest fight because I'm done.
Nah, you're not the easiest fight. You could just sit on me, I'll probably die. Look at the size of you.
Sit
right
and
now,
choke.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna choke me.
No,
bro.
I'm bad at. I choke back. Even when I was a kid, the moment that I would get bullied, I would run with my hands like this to choke.
Then you get an arm bar. I'm gonna arm bar you, bro. I know jiu-jitsu.
Guys, Max Holloway checks in. My brother,
brother?
thank you so much for checking in.
Thanks for
again,
having me, bro.
Another big fight week, man. It's like every time.
Max isn't biting. He's not buying the excuses. He's not buying the leg story. He's not buying the comeback narrative. Because Max Holloway has spent the last decade proving something Conor McGregor never had to prove. That you can take damage, lose fights, get knocked down, and still come back better. Conor's legacy is built on highlight reels. Max's legacy is built on miles. And if you're watching this and you still think Conor's left hand is enough to erase a decade of evolution, drop a comment right now, because the next clip is going to test that belief in a way you are not ready for.
Help support future videos by becoming a member or checking out our merch shop. Support the fighters in this video by subscribing to their channels. Up first is Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan.
Look at this. We go crazy, right? And I'm in disbelief here. I'm like, oh my God. I cannot believe what I just saw.
My whole body was...
Look at the reactions. Fighters across the entire roster lost their minds. Volkanovski, Topuria, Chandler, every single one of them watched that knockout and understood what it meant. Max Holloway wasn't just winning fights anymore. He was breaking the limits of what a featherweight could do at 155. He was finishing legends. He was making history with theater. And the problem for Conor McGregor fans is simple. Max didn't do that as a younger version of himself. He did that as the 32-year-old finisher who is now waiting at UFC 329.
The number 5 ranked lightweight and current UFC BMF champion, Max Holloway, collides with number 6 ranked contender, Dustin Poirier, in the main event. Dustin Poirier, 30-9, fighting out of Coconut Creek, Florida, by the way of Louisiana, looks for a storybook ending against Holloway in his last fight inside the octagon. Poirier is one of the most well-rounded fighters in the lightweight division and brings in a very exciting skill set, along with his durability, a BJJ black belt, solid boxing, and true toughness. This is his retirement fight, and expect fireworks. But on the other side of the octagon, you have the...
Then came UFC 318. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. The same Dustin Poirier who broke Conor McGregor's leg and beat him twice. The same Dustin who Conor could never solve. Max didn't just beat Poirier. He spoiled his retirement fight in front of a hostile New Orleans crowd, defended his BMF belt, and outworked him for 5 full rounds. Think about what that means. The man Conor couldn't crack, Max Holloway just out-cardioed, out-volumed, and outclassed. And the math from there is brutal.
Can I be real? So many people now are just done. Well, now he's back. Last week I was sitting at the desk when it was announced, but I had a little bit of an idea that it would happen before, because I was, you listen to the rumor mill and everything, but when you're friends with Max and you're talking to people with around the organization, you can make videos like I made. So maybe the video was me pitching you the idea that Max wants to fight Conor, but there was a little bit more to it. Take a listen to what I had to say.
Daniel Cormier said it on his own channel. Conor McGregor has been gone too long. The version of Conor that walked away in 2021 was already showing cracks. The version coming back in 2026 has been out of competition for almost 5 full years. And during those 5 years, Max Holloway didn't just stay active, he reinvented himself. New camp, new cardio, new finishing instinct, new BMF mentality. DC didn't sugarcoat it. He said Conor can train as hard as he wants, but timing, distance, reflexes, those things don't come back overnight. And against Max Holloway, you don't get a second chance to figure it out.
Loves yous all. I got love for yous. It's an it's an honor. It's light work. It's easy. For life and eternity, it's McGregor. How drunk was he when he wrote this? I do this fight game easy peasy. The sound of my shots off the head go bing in green dot laser form. Okay.
Big fight is coming. Let's cheers to that. The Mac is back, baby. Let's go. It's like a musical. Music to my ears it is. Rob, you know, I'm out so long, 5 years. My body's fresh, my mind is...
And then Joe Rogan stepped in, and even he couldn't fake the concern. Joe has been Conor's biggest cheerleader for over a decade. He has called McGregor a once-in-a-generation talent. He's called him the most dangerous left hand in the sport. But when Joe started breaking down the matchup against Holloway, the tone shifted. The praise was still there, but so was the doubt. Because Joe knows the math. He knows Max's volume. He knows Max's chin. He knows what happens when a high-output striker meets a guy who hasn't fought in years. And if Rogan is hesitating, that should tell you everything.
We're watching that.
That's
huge.
right.
That's huge.
Yeah, it is huge.
It's all good for everybody. It's good for the sport. It's great for the sport. It's like that's what we need. We need more competition, more eyeballs on it. And unfortunately for the the people that are casuals, it has to be a name. You know, it has to, like, this Conor McGregor fight in July is going to be fucking bananas. It's going to be bananas. I mean, people are going to go crazy for the return of Conor McGregor because he's a giant personality.
But don't expect the same thing.
How could
you just can't.
He hasn't fought in 5 years, right?
Exactly.
Conor McGregor is set to make his highly anticipated return to the UFC after nearly 5 years away from the octagon.
Even on the JRE MMA show, the conversation kept circling back to the same question. Does Conor still have it? Not the trash talk, not the swagger, not the brand. The actual sharpness, the actual reflexes, the actual ability to crack a moving target. Because Max Holloway isn't a power puncher you can intimidate. He's a points piler who walks through fire. The longer this fight goes, the worse it gets for Conor. And the data backs it up. Conor has not won a 5-round fight in nearly a decade. Max has done it 4 times in the last 2 years.
With you. So when you take a look at Conor McGregor, I know you've talked about it here. What continues to kind of be at the forefront of your mind when it comes to a 5-year layoff for the notorious MMA?
Not only a 5-year layoff, but also coming off of one of the worst injuries you could have in the sport, which also throws another hiccup in there. Where is his leg at, after dealing with that, a tibia and fibula fracture? There's only been...
Then the training footage started leaking, and it made the situation worse for Conor's side. Max Holloway moving faster. Max Holloway sharper. Max Holloway in the best shape of his career heading into camp. This is not a man taking a payday fight. This is a man who has waited 13 years for a second crack at the only fighter who ever beat him at featherweight. And if you still think Max is just happy to be there, the next quote should end that argument.
It is what it is. He got hype, man, and I just can't wait to Saturday night. We get to mix it up.
I don't really care about what people say, hype, good or bad. When the door shuts, I'm gonna go forward. I'm gonna go at my opponent, and we're gonna exchange, and that's it. The result is not in my thoughts. I'm just gonna go out and perform and do what I do day in, day out.
Max said it plain. I want him at any weight. No call-outs, no theatrics, no fake outrage. Just a working-class fighter telling a billionaire celebrity, name the weight, name the night, I'll be there. That kind of confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from receipts. Because Max already knows something Conor's fans don't want to admit. Conor barely beat him as a 21-year-old kid with no UFC tools. What's supposed to happen now that the kid grew up?
And I relish the opportunity to once again show my mastery in the martial arts world. 2 things about Conor's statement, and this is just me giving you the absolute real. There are things about Conor McGregor that, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I really do appreciate A lot. The fact that he has been so loyal to his team, crazy. That dude has never left. He's been with Kavanaugh his entire career. He has stuck by his coaches through the ups and the downs, and it doesn't seem like anything.
This is the part of the story that splits the fan base. Half of UFC Twitter believes Conor's power erases everything. That one clean left hand ends Max's night the same way it ended Aldo's. The other half believes Conor is walking into a buzzsaw, and Dana White just sold him out for a pay-per-view headline. So, before we go further, drop a comment. Are you riding with Conor's left hand, or are you riding with Max's volume and chin? Because the receipts are about to get even uglier for one side.
On this episode of Detail, I take a look at the notorious Conor McGregor. That action again we've spoken about. Watch your fade. I mean, that is just a feint with the left. He knows Max doesn't want to get hit with the left anymore, right? He knows it. He knows it. So as Max goes to return, uppercut right up the middle. He knows that he has Max now guessing on the left. He's taking...
Even Daniel Cormier, when he broke down the original fight, pointed out something most fans missed. Conor didn't dominate Max because he was better everywhere. He won because Max was young, raw, and not yet using the volume system that made him famous. DC's words, not mine. Take that same Max and add 10 years of evolution, BMF energy, and finishing instinct, and the gap shrinks to almost nothing. Maybe even flips entirely.
Just flukes it because that's what the UFC wants. Not saying it's rigged or anything. But I will say, if the UFC wants Conor to win this, they might skip a few drug tests for him. They might let him come back a little bit saucier than he was before. Maybe that same sauce level he had when he was in, recovery for his broken leg. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to pick off the chance that he's sauced up. I'm going to assume he's clean. He's off the roids now. And I think Max Holloway colds him. However, it being at 170 does make it a little bit odd for Max. He has 2 months to bulk up. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he has a full camp to bulk up now.
Now factor in the weight. 170 pounds. Welterweight. Conor walked into the Diaz fights at welterweight and got finished in one of them. He looked slower, he looked heavier, he gassed. And that was the prime version of Conor, not the 37-year-old comeback version. Max Holloway, meanwhile, has been moving up to lightweight for years. He's already fought monsters at 155. The size jump for Max is barely a jump. For Conor, it's a return to a weight class that has never been kind to him. And the implication is brutal. Conor isn't just facing a worse stylistic matchup, he's facing it at the worst possible weight.
During that fateful moment represents a scene permanently burned into the collective memory of fight enthusiasts worldwide. His desperate cry that his foot resembled a balloon wasn't merely a colorful quote for highlight reels, it was a genuine plea for help, a vulnerable confession of the excruciating pain and deep frustration experienced by a fallen champion brought to his lowest point. These weren't simply routine losses that every fighter experiences during their career. They were absolutely devastating setbacks that completely shattered the carefully cultivated aura of invincibility he had spent years building through dominant performances.
And the fame, is the thirst and the hunger still the same? Well, because he has lost, because it's been 5 years away, I think the thirst and the hunger will be the same. And if this doesn't...
And the strangest part of all of this, Dana White picked this fight on purpose. He had options. Michael Chandler was right there. Justin Gaethje was available. Paddy Pimblett was campaigning. Dana didn't go with any of them. He went with Max Holloway, the worst possible stylistic matchup for a returning Conor McGregor. Which makes you wonder what UFC fans have been wondering for weeks. Does Dana actually believe Conor wins this? Or is the UFC cashing in one last massive pay-per-view before the brand fades for good? Because the matchmaking tells its own story.
Return. The notorious aura was built on unshakable confidence and a relentless drive. But how much of that drive remains after years away from the crucible of competition? The world watches, eager to see if the hunger for glory still burns in the heart of the fighter who once promised to take over the world. The answer will be found under the unforgiving light.
Max lives a complete different lifestyle, where I've never seen Max
at a club drunk. You never see him on the headlines for anything bad. That guy lives a different life where he's gym, family, gym, family, gym, family. I think that's going to pay the biggest dividends, because you could be away from the sport 5 years, come back like nothing happened if you live that life.
This is a stark contrast, painted with vivid strokes. McGregor's high profile.
This is where the narrative flips. Because if Conor wins, even if it's ugly, even if it's a flash knockout in round 1, the entire UFC universe explodes. He instantly becomes the biggest comeback story in combat sports history. Bigger than Tyson, bigger than Holyfield. The brand resets overnight. But if he loses, and especially if he loses badly, that's the end of the myth. No more what if, no more imagine prime Conor. Just a clear, brutal answer to the question fans have been afraid to ask for years. And Max Holloway is the worst possible opponent to ask it against.
Do it for Brazil and for the United States.
Good stand up there from Brandao. Nice shot, nice right hand from McGregor as he stands. Good pressure already.
But according to his teammates, Conor McGregor hits like a middleweight.
He does have a height and reach advantage as well, which is really working out for him right now. Nice head kick, stalking his opponent. Looked like a slip from Brandao there.
McGregor will switch up his stances. He'll bring in capoeira if he can.
Look at Conor's recent body of work. 2 losses to Poirier, a broken leg, 4 years of inactivity, lawsuits, distractions, a failed boxing return that never came. Compare that to Max's recent body of work. The Allen demolition, the Korean zombie finish, the Gaethje knockout for the BMF, the Poirier decision. One of those resumes is a man peaking. The other is a man hoping. And UFC fans know exactly which is which.
Not true. And that's not me attacking him or anything. It's just not a true statement. The world, and especially sports, doesn't work like that. You don't put a basketball down for 5 years and then go shoot it and feel like you're shooting better. Even the greatest shooter of all time is Steph Curry. He stopped shooting the ball for 5 years. In 5 years, he will not be as elite a shooter as he is today. That's just fact. But the guy from before might be good enough. The guy from before was elite. Maybe that guy shows up and gets the job done. Now, when you talk to Max, Max doesn't believe that for a second. Max believes that
Cormier said one more thing that stuck with everyone. He said Conor's biggest enemy isn't Max Holloway. It's the version of himself that doesn't exist anymore. The 2015 Conor who put away Aldo in 13 seconds isn't walking through that cage door at UFC 329. The 2016 Conor who outpointed Eddie Alvarez isn't walking through that cage door either. The man stepping in is a 37-year-old returning from a near career-ending injury and 4 years of inactivity. And he's stepping in against the most active, most evolved version of the only featherweight who ever pushed him 3 full rounds. That's not a comeback fight. That's a stress test.
They would have made the Michael Chandler-Conor fight a little bit more than Max Holloway versus Conor. 5 rounds. I'm like, good God.
Yeah.
But that's the way she goes.
I think it's a tougher fight for Conor to fight Max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Conor's a sniper with that left hand and could probably put Chandler away to where I don't know if he's going to be able to do that with Holloway. And Holloway's got cardio for days. And we know that Conor's one of those guys.
The Notorious hasn't fought since July 10th, 2021. And I don't know why they did this fight. They dropped it during the Nagano.
And the receipts are everywhere. Max isn't talking like a man chasing a legacy fight. He's talking like a man finishing unfinished business. Every interview, every training clip, every quote. There's no nerves, no fear, no hype chasing. Just a quiet, focused fighter who watched Conor disrespect his sport for years and has been waiting patiently for the chance to settle it. If you're still on the fence on this matchup, hit subscribe before the next section, because what comes next changes how this whole story should be read.
You're 5 fucking years ago, July. So it literally will be 6 years.
Yeah.
But when
it'll be 5 years. It'll be 5 years.
When you're taking a younger fighter and putting them against the old dog, it normally doesn't end well for the old dog.
Well, the thing is about Max Holloway is like Max Holloway isn't
he's young.
that much younger
Yeah.
than Conor.
He's not.
But the thing is, Max has been in constant high-level competition the entire time. Won the BMF fight, beat Dustin, like constant high-level competition.
That's right.
It's a different thing.
And I honestly believe him at 155 is the best thing for him.
Absolutely.
But he's not 155 in this fight.
This is
170. But
yeah.
honestly, he might even be
no
better.
way cutting it off.
Here's the part nobody on Conor's side wants to deal with. Max Holloway has never been knocked out at featherweight. Never. Aldo couldn't do it. Volkanovski couldn't do it across 3 fights. Korean Zombie couldn't do it. The only knockout on Max's record is Dustin Poirier at lightweight, and Ilia Topuria, a different generation entirely. Conor McGregor is going to need to do something that elite featherweights couldn't do after 4 years of ring rust at a weight class that historically slows him down. The path to victory is real. It exists, but it is razor thin.
Fire. Max Holloway embodies that fire, a constant inferno. He's a fighter who never stops evolving, never takes a step back. This isn't just a fight, it's a clash of eras, a test of wills, and a stark reminder that even the biggest stars must pay their dues. The Blessed Era has been defined by consistency. Can the Notorious Era be revived by sheer force of will?
Shit. The man's been fighting nothing but the best. So this is far from an easy fight for Conor McGregor. And I respect the shit out of him for coming back at 38 years old with apparently hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank account and fighting Max Holloway that's been so active.
This statement power.
And this is where the fan split becomes most obvious. The Irish fans believe in the myth. They believe Conor walks into T-Mobile Arena. The crowd erupts, and that left hand finds the home it always finds. The American hardcore fans believe the layoff is too long, and the matchup is too cruel. Both sides have a real argument. Both sides will defend it to their last breath. And on July 11th, only one side gets to be right. Tell me right now in the comments, are you team myth or team math?
Is a fighter who isn't simply thinking about winning anymore. He's actively contemplating and planning for what happens if his ankle, knee, or shoulder completely gives out during the heat of battle. This unprecedented level of strategic forethought demonstrates an incredible philosophical shift from the fighter who once genuinely believed he was completely invincible and immune to the physical limitations that plague ordinary competitors. It's fundamentally about developing pre-programmed responses to crisis situations, maintaining an unwavering refusal to surrender even when severely compromised physically, because as he emphatically states, the fight isn't truly over until the moment you consciously decide to give up and quit. It's an incredibly powerful declaration of resilience and mental toughness, suggesting a newfound psychological strength.
But here's the layer most fans haven't even considered. This fight isn't just about Conor versus Max. It's about what UFC 329 means for the entire MMA landscape. If Conor returns and wins, he reshapes the next 2 years of the sport. Title fights, boxing crossovers, money fights stacked on top of money fights. If he loses, the UFC loses its biggest gravity well of attention forever. There is no third Conor era after a Holloway loss. None. The brand simply cannot survive Conor getting beat up by a guy who already lost to him once. The stakes are bigger than a single fight, and Max Holloway knows it.
The impact this kid has had on the sport is going to last much longer past his expiration date. But ultimately on July 11th, he has got to go and fight a guy that many people in this world believe that's just too much for him. That's just too much for him. And honestly, the Nate Diaz fight, after watching Nate fight last weekend, Conor probably wishes that that was the fight he got. Because Max is a much, much tougher opponent standing on the opposite side of that octagon from him. So it's interesting. But again, he has...
So let's settle the question this entire video has been building toward. Why is Max Holloway a nightmare for Conor McGregor? It's not just his volume. It's not just his cardio. It's not just his chin. It's the combination. At the exact wrong moment in Conor's career, at the exact wrong weight class, after the exact wrong layoff, against the exact worst stylistic matchup. Max Holloway isn't a fighter Conor can scare. He isn't a fighter Conor can talk into a brawl. He isn't a fighter Conor can out-cardio. And he isn't a fighter Conor can rely on past tape to predict. Because the Max Holloway showing up to T-Mobile Arena is a completely different man than the one Conor met in 2013.
Fight, Marcus Brimage, Conor McGregor, and here we go. Quickly taking the center of the octagon, and right into battle, Brimage in the white.
This is exactly what Brimage needs to do. He needs to dumb down the fight. He can't let Conor get off, get his rhythm going, and get his momentum going. Conor loves angles. He loves to mix it up. He'll step off, and Brimage just has to stay in his face.
Black trunks for Dublin, Ireland's McGregor.
And maybe that's why this fight already feels different from any other Conor McGregor comeback. There's no easy layup here. There's no Dennis Seaver. There's no Chad Mendez on short notice. Dana White handed Conor the version of Max Holloway that haunts the entire featherweight and lightweight divisions, and asked him to do it after almost 5 years away from the sport. The audacity of that booking is the actual story, because the UFC didn't protect their biggest star. They threw him to the most evolved version of the only featherweight he never finished, and every single fight expert in the sport is seeing the same red flags.
Super old, but not super young either. This age, combined with the severity of the break and the extended layoff, creates a gigantic question mark over McGregor's return. It's a triple threat of challenges: a traumatic injury, years of inactivity, and the inexorable march of time. Can Conor overcome all three? The clock ticks relentlessly, especially in the unforgiving world of combat sports. For a fighter whose style was built on speed, precision, and explosive power, age becomes a critical variable. While 32 might not sound ancient, it's firmly past the typical physical peak for many athletes. Add 5-year hiatus and a career-threatening injury, and
The truth is, the closer you look at this matchup, the worse the math gets for Conor. The volume gap, the activity gap, the age gap working against him, the weight gap working against him, the cardio gap, the chin advantage, the momentum gap, the mental advantage Max has from already going the distance with him once. There's a reason every serious MMA analyst in the world has been openly nervous for Conor since the announcement dropped. And there's a reason Max Holloway has been smiling every single time he's been asked about this fight. Because Max knows what Conor's team is privately admitting. This is the worst possible fight, at the worst possible time, against the worst possible opponent.
Arts at the highest level. The powerful notion that fights aren't truly over until a fighter consciously chooses to quit resonates deeply with fight fans, perfectly echoing the unyielding warrior spirit that defines true champions throughout combat sports history.
Boxing, you got punches to the head, you got punches to the body. This is a whole different beast, okay? If that ain't working, right, then you've got to try something else. You can push them up against the fence, you can try and use your kicks, you can try and use calf kicks, head kicks, whatever, mix those up, push him up against the fence, try and get the underhook, maybe use the tie clinch, maybe shoot a double leg, a single leg, a high crotch, whatever it is. As I say, there's many.
The brilliant analysis articulates precisely why mixed martial arts represents something fundamentally different from boxing, kickboxing.
Here's the bigger picture that puts everything in perspective. Conor McGregor changed the UFC forever. The pay-per-view records, the mainstream attention, the casino fight aesthetic, the trash talk era. Every modern UFC star, Topuria, O'Malley, Chandler, even Khabib's rise, is downstream of what Conor built. But legacy and reality are different things. Legacy says Conor is the biggest star in the history of the sport. Reality says Max Holloway has fought more elite competition in the last 3 years than Conor has in the last 7. And on fight night, the judges don't score legacy. They score what happens between bell 1 and bell 5. That's the part Max controls. That's the part Conor can no longer fake.
When before he was jiu-jitsu Oliveira, now he's an MMA Oliveira, and when he's submitting these guys, right? He's not taking them down and submitting them. He's cracking them on the feet or hurting them on the feet and then submitting them. So yeah. I think it's a very dangerous opponent. I mean, this is, like he said in his own words, MMA Oliveira, and I'm excited for it. You know what I mean? We get to find out. I think so. One of his, I just was doing a bunch of interviews, and one of his Portuguese guys said the difference between this fight and me and him is that he can strike with me, but I cannot grapple with him. And I'm like, brother, this is MMA, so we get to find out.
But he said it was MMA.
Yeah.
And now he says like it's contradicting himself.
That's why I'm confused. And if he believes he can strike with
Maybe
me,
it was less, like maybe it was lost in translation.
yeah, maybe so.
There's one final piece that ties this entire story together, and it's the part that should keep Conor's coaches up at night. Max Holloway has built an entire decade of his career around proving doubters wrong. He has been written off after every single loss. After Aldo, after Volkanovski, after Poirier, after Topuria. Every single time, he came back better, sharper, hungrier, more dangerous. Conor McGregor, meanwhile, has spent the same decade being protected. Easier matchups, long layoffs, stylistic favors from the matchmaking. One of these fighters has been forged. The other has been preserved. And in a 5-round welterweight main event at UFC 329, that difference is going to show.
Encounter represented a brutal, unexpected test of his adaptability and mental toughness, which he passed with flying colors by seamlessly shifting to a wrestling-heavy approach when his preferred striking game became compromised. This wasn't merely survival instinct or desperation, it demonstrated tactical brilliance and ring intelligence, showcasing a functional plan B before he even articulated the strategic concept publicly during interviews and promotional appearances. It presents a compelling argument for his current state of readiness and preparation, suggesting that this strategic depth and adaptability isn't a recent development, but rather a refined version of abilities he's possessed throughout his professional career.
The worst case.
So when you sit down on July 11th and the cage door closes, remember what you're really watching. You're not watching a normal fight. You're watching the most dangerous test of Conor McGregor's entire career against the only man at featherweight who could ever truly look him in the eye and say, "I lasted with you when nobody else did." That sentence carries weight. That sentence carries history. That sentence carries unfinished business. And on July 11th, for better or worse, that sentence finally gets answered. Max Holloway didn't just earn this rematch. He spent 13 years dragging it out of the universe. And now Conor has no choice but to step in and face the version of him that grew up. The question isn't whether Conor still has the power. The power is still there. The question is whether the power finds a target. Because Max Holloway is the hardest target Conor has ever been asked to hit. Tell me in the comments who you've got at UFC 329, but be honest about it. Because the more you study this matchup, the harder it gets to bet against the man who has been waiting 13 years for one more chance. If this breakdown made you see this fight differently, hit subscribe. Because the build-up to UFC 329 is going to be the wildest stretch of UFC content of the decade, and we are not missing a single moment of it. The myth of Conor McGregor walks into T-Mobile Arena on July 11th. The math of Max Holloway is already waiting for him, and only one of them walks out with their legacy intact.